In this America, we are faced with a lot of homeless people and a lot of people that are riding on the edge of complete bankruptcy. They're maxed out their credit cards and so on. And we need small-time homes so that they can actually survive the winter without getting sick. Because if they get sick, it costs a lot more money, or they die, and neither one is acceptable. So you have to have a place for them to stay, as well as people that are just in between jobs and just can't afford the life that universities had made for you. So we have in the background there, you can see that little building there. It's 4 by 8, which means that it's simply as small as it can be. It's standard size products all the way through it, and so it requires a minimum amount of work to make it work. And you can put a little bit of electricity in it and create a heater and so on. You'll see what this is a little bit later in the film. But it allows it allows people to have a place to go. It allows protection in the night, so that you cannot be attacked in the night. You can bar the door if you want to, lock the door, bar it, whatever seems necessary to you, and you can heat it. So you can vent it. It has one end of the roof comes up, and if you use a gas strut to help you lift it up, it wouldn't be that hard. So you'll see how that works after a bit. And you can use, there's screening involved with that, and the screening can use just a 4-inch appropriate sized piece of round ductwork that you just screw on the building, and it catches the rain, and you can collect that water if you want to, and you can hide the screen if you want to. It's up to you. So we're looking for methods to provide housing, and realistic housing. And these have to be put in a community setting. These have to be, a 50-foot line and a 50-foot line and a 50-foot line, or an 80-foot line, whatever it is that you have a lot available for. And you put them tight enough together so that there's only one opening, there's only one way in, and there's only one way out, so that people in your neighborhood don't have to mess with you, and you don't have to mess with them. It's just, and it's not an eyesore. You can, these are in line. 50 feet of it is 10 units, and you can put, you have a long, that's the width of a semi, or the length of a semi, and you can simply put, and it's the width of a semi, so you can put siding on the building. It really won't be very expensive, and you can work with it, in other words, so that you can actually house people. And if you house people there, and if you put them in a community where they can talk to each other and help each other, and just be around each other and say, we're in this together, kind of thing, mental health will greatly improve. Because the problem with most mental health, is particularly with those who are homeless, is the fact that nobody cares. Nobody cares. You're abandoned. You're adrift. You have no place to have a reasonable shower, or laundry, or food, or whatever it is, and you need to put I use a commercial freezer for a little office. You just snap it together, basically, and you can buy them in whatever size you need, and they're made out of steel and styrofoam, and it would be a realistic solution. And the end result of it is that in these little communities, they can be picked up. This whole community can be picked up in less than a day, really, if you're prepared for that. And you can set them on a semi-truck, and you can haul them away if they become a real problem. And of course, the idea is that if you have an empty lot, we'll give you no tax on that lot, kind of thing, and we'll be out if you sell the lot to someone who's going to develop it. Then we'll be out in a month, and on you go. It is no problem to you. It's no problem for the neighborhood. It's if the neighborhood has has a problem, they need to go ahead and talk to these people and work it out. And you need to be able to move people in and move people out that don't belong there or that do belong there. You need to go ahead, and it would be best if you just go ahead and put it, if you're all from Somalia or whatever it is, if you're all from Greece, if you're all from the United States, if you're all white, if you're all black, whatever it is, you're better off in a group as a whole in these little communities, because it doesn't allow for it's us or them. It just works better. And you can argue all you want about that, but the end result is it just works better, because family is family. And everybody goes, it's me or you, it's us or them, and so on. So as the little video displays or continues here, you'll see a little bit more of detail that would be a part of what this is about, and whether or not you can afford it, whether or not you're willing to build it, whether or not you're willing to set it in your neighborhood so that you can have utilities and what have you. And that's just the facts of life. You would want something at least this much for yourself if it was you. It's a guarantee. We all do. So instead of living in a car or living on the street or doing what you have to do to survive, this is better. And if you provide the work, you can people would be willing. Most of these people would be more than willing to do something productive to help themselves and to help you. Plant trees, pick up trash, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Separate and recycle and so on. And of course, you'll see a little bit later on in the film that plastics can be put in between these buildings. Shred them up, grind them up, or cut them up. Whatever it is that you want to do, we can cut them up easily enough by pressing them in I'm going to put them in a press, and at the edge of that press, really where they're really stuck, you can use a metal cutting blade to cut them as if you're cutting board. And the purpose of that is to create edges that go up and down and move it in and out, because if we can entrap air, we can insulate the building without much cost. This is plastic, this is a good insulator, and it's actually a reasonable sound deadening material. And you can use used carpet. People are replacing their carpet all the time, and their pad and so on, and the people who have carpet selling facilities, they're more than willing to give you the carpet, or they should be, to give you the carpet that they've taken out of somewhere. And you just cut it into 4x8 sheets or pieces and you throw it in. It doesn't have to be extra special. So, or you can put flooring on the floor and paint it and so on, make it your own. And what's the difference? So that's the basic issue, and the reality of it is, with almost 9 billion people on the earth so far, 9 billion, a 1% rise in population, just 1%, that's 10 more births over deaths per 1,000 people. 1% of 9 billion people is 90 million people that have to be housed and fed and so on each year that arrive. That means 90 nations have to make room for 1 million more individuals each year. This is not going well. And if you don't require some kind of birth control, you're going to go to war, and you're going to starve, and you're going to cannibalize each other, and you're going to run out of water and so on. And if you think you're just, you got all the money in the world, well, all you got is numbers, because money is resource, which have been attacked and enormously degraded, and labor. So, but without resources, you have nothing. If you live in the desert, what are you going to build? You build it out of sand, okay, but what else are you going to build with? You're in the desert, because everything is gone. And the future is gone if you don't stop. So make a choice. try to help out each other, respect each other. You know, life is life. Doesn't matter how much money you have. Doesn't matter what your position is. Doesn't matter what your color is. Doesn't matter what your race is or size or whatever it is. It doesn't matter, because life is the most important part. Try to remember that. All right, so what we're doing here is to create a home for people who are homeless. And this is, you know, basically we're as cheap as possible. We've got a little problem here on the bottom. I have to correct, the truck hit it. But anyway, it's built out of 4x8 sheets of plywood. This is 7/16 wafer board is what it actually is. And it's made with studs. So the studs are a little shorter than 8 feet. And the plywood, of course, is 8 feet. And this is the end result of what you get with theirs. So you have a board that controls the side, and we have to control the roll of the thing. Anyway, it's just as simple as possible. And this is the outside. And it's 4 foot by 8 foot. And so that's 32 square feet of actual space, or a teeny weeny bit less. And this is one of the sides here. But you can see it better up here. And of course, one side in wafer board, one side is stapled so that it has a little more grip. It's mostly used for roofing, and this side is smooth. You know, you can put it either way. So, so the end result is that we're going to put a 7/16 board running on 2 foot centers for a floor. You can add a piece of plywood on top of that to make it an inch thick or whatever it is that you think you have to have. But 7/16 is actually good enough. So anyway, we're going to put a door in here later and things like that. And so that's the beginning of the thing. And of course, some paint and a little bit of flooring on the bottom, and you know, it's we're coming to as cheap as we can. Okay, well, we have a vertical edge here to hinge it, and we have a you know, gaps to let the sides come into that and seal a little bit better, and a lifting arm across the middle, and a overlap to bring the edge of the roof a little further over, and that's all. Alright, so it's a little cold outside, so I brought this inside. This is, if you look here, we have plastic pieces. They were actually cut with a Sawzall, and you do that by compressing them with a press between a couple steel plates, so that the thing that you're trying to cut is compressed, and it acts like a board and cuts like a board. So you can cut it into strips. Doesn't matter what kind of plastic it is. So we're going to try to create insulation. That's what we're doing. We're going to create insulation with bits and pieces of plastic, all kinds, and then we're going to melt it together or glue it together with one of the plastics that will melt instead of burn. Actually, it burns, but if you get it too hot, but it will melt and it will pour like a glue across the top of it, and that will create a thing for you. So, you know, I've never tried to do it inside the house. So, here we go. And I do have fire extinguishers available. So, this is now a molten plastic. You can see that. But the smoke alarm is going off. And I'm not going to be able to finish the job, because it's just not, so I'm not going to finish the job, but you can see how it goes. We get a plastic film out of it. We can pour it on like pouring syrup, but you know, this is a house, so I'm not going to do that. So anyway, you get the idea. You cut up plastic by squeezing it down and then just using a saw with a relatively fine blade so that the saw has enough power. And then you create the miscellaneous pieces of plastic, and then you glue it all together. And once you have a spider web of glue across the top, which is the glue is the plastic, of course. And once you get, well, we'll just leave it there. And once you get the plastic able to pour across the top, then you can turn it over and do the other side and create a mat, an insulating mat. And then of course you can pour more plastic on top of that and glue it again and create a whole a bat of insulation. And plastic is a very good insulator, actually. So you can insulate houses, or you can insulate the little micro sheds that we're creating here. And that would be all. So if you look, this is you know, basically what it's doing, and the end result is that that's just about ready to turn into a syrup. And in fact, you could probably use it for candle wax if you were prepared to do that, because it will burn, but it doesn't burn easily. Well, it just depends on how hot you get it, whether it burns or not. But this is more than okay for gluing a piece of plastic together. So anyway, that's it for today. Something I forgot to mention is that the molded plastic, you know, one of the varieties of plastic, is once it melted, it's very very hot, and it's very you know, it will burn you badly. It'll give you a 3rd-degree burn. Well, if you get it on your skin, it is not going to come off. It'll kind of eat right through your skin, and your skin isn't going to go back so well. Be very careful with any kind of molded plastic. It's not safe. You have to be you know, aware of what you're doing, or don't do it at all. Alright, well, I forgot to mention as well that you don't have to glue it all together. You can just pour it into the slot in between the little micro compartments that are there. You have to put a board or something to contain it. But it has an inherent ability to stay apart, much like cellulose does. And it will work just fine. And it doesn't mold, and it doesn't have a problem with water and things like that. But it should have a screen in the bottom so that it can drain, and it should be you know, perhaps separated in stages so that it doesn't have too much weight pushing on it. And if you want to, you can you know, put it into a roll of using screen wire or something to give it some kind of uniformity and some kind of structure, and you know, and things like that. There's any number of things you can do with it, including, you know, insulating a lot of poor family homes that need to increase their insulation by a lot in order to keep the earth from overheating and reduce their power bill. Alright, so this is the completed micro apartment. A little hard to see. It's 4 by 8 and 8 feet tall. So, and it has a rubber roof which raises up on the back side to vent it in the summertime. I haven't really done that yet. Has just a wafer board door with a keyed lock and a secure position. And, you know, there's just things you can do. So, it weighs about 600 pounds, and it costs about $500 in parts. And it takes about 12 hours or so to do it. Alright, so this has 2 shelves, and you know, you can put buckets in between each one, or have 3 or 4 shelves, whatever it is that you want. The lift of the roof is here, this goes up in this little notch here or this little notch here to raise the roof, or you can set it on top of however much you want. And you can put a gas supported strut up here at the top and help that push up, because it weighs about 100 pounds or a little more, I don't remember. Has a little shelf here for, you know, groceries or whatever, but mostly that's a stiffener for that wall, as that is a stiffener for that wall, but it also supports the bed here. So we have a shelf on the other side, because you got to have a place to put stuff. Shoot. Well, you have to have, we put a little heater here. That's 1500 watts, and it's more than enough to do this. But the you know, it has to be lower so that you don't overheat anything. Close enough. So anyway, you have a electric plug in here to take care of your needs. You have a, you know, it goes out through the wall, and what you would do is you'd run one single line, high line wire across the top and just tap onto it wherever you have a little micro apartment. And the end result is that it's simple and cheap. There's not much expense to that. So we're looking at how to take the little bed down, and you do the lock there, and you fold it down, and now you have a bed or a platform. This is a wide enough area here for an 8-inch mattress, a standard 8-inch mattress. And this is a stabilized ladder, small enough for the purpose, that you climb up to get onto the shelf here. And like I said, you have a shelf above and a shelf to the side, and so the twin bed. But of course, you know, if you're desperate, you can you know, put two in it. All right. So anyway, we have a table, because you basically have to have a table for people to work at. So that's your table. And you can get around. This is a screen to lift it up. So this is a table here. And you can, you know, this is a chair. It's a folding chair. That doesn't take up much room, but you can put people on both sides of it. You can even have 4 people in here playing cards or something if you really wanted to. It, you know, simply folds up again. Okay, so like I say, that's just for heater, and you have to be aware of how much heat you're producing and where it ends up so that you don't burn the place down. This is a 3 pieces of carpet pad, and I find that 3 pieces of carpet pad make a very good mattress, actually. So you just roll it out and you sleep on it, and you roll it back up, or whatever you want to do if the mattress is too expensive, and they add cost. So you could also put that pad out on the floor And that way you'd have, you know, a second bed basically, one on top and one on the bottom. It is possible to actually put a toilet in here if you wanted to, not one that you have normally, but one that I would design for you if you wanted. But that's the basic plan. Like I said, it's simply a sleeping room. It's a place to store your stuff so you don't have grocery carts moving around town. And it requires a people that provide a community. And we want to make a community out of it because that helps with mental health, helps with trying to find a job, it helps with all kinds of things. But, you know, they have to be able to throw people out who don't belong, who are, you know, unworthy to be there. And there will always be a few of those, but not very many. So the end result of it is you have a rubber roof, and it's not done very well, but it's good enough. Yeah, I'm 72 years old. I got it done. What the hell? So if you wanted to put a heavier floor under it, you know, that would be okay, particularly for heavy people. You need at least 5/8 plywood for that, or wafer board would work. And anchoring it to a subframe would work. A 50-foot semi-trailer would hold 10 of these micro apartments. So that has its own set of value. You can have, you know, so that's 10 people per 50 foot. And of course, if you're ring a community, make a courtyard and enclose it so that there's only one entry and one exit, so that the people inside don't have to work or worry about the people outside, and the people outside don't have to worry about the people inside, you know, on a bus route. But you have to have a community center in the center of this, you know. So we're talking basically 40, 50 people for the average size of this. And a friend of mine offered the idea that if you put solar panels on there, on the roof, you could actually create a situation where people were not taking up any space that other people want. They just simply going to do what, you know, the solar panels go on top and they just live in there. So that's the basic plan, and a community center. So this is a put together freezer. It's a commercial freezer. You just clamp it together with and it's very simple. It's steel and styrofoam, and you know, this is not for you know, this is my little office, but you can see this is a 10 by 13. And you can put a lot of people in here. You can put, you know, a laundromat in here, whatever it is that you need. And bigger, of course, would be better. But that is the basic-ish.